Welcome again. Can't wait to work with you. Let's get into the training content.
Hey there, and welcome to the second installment of the semi truck CDL portion of our training materials. You should have already watched one of the training videos that was for both box truck, cargo van, and CDL drivers. And now you are watching a training video that is specific to CDL drivers. And in this video, we're calling out the nuances um, and the things that separate the CDL drivers from the box truck drivers and the rest of our driver population. There are certain call outs and things to make mention of. So I will go ahead and do that in this video. And that way you have success when it comes to attempting to pass the quiz and in your role here with Drizzle Goods. So let's go ahead and get started. In the video, there was reference to there being both over the road and short haul. And I want to make sure I make that clear, over the road and short haul opportunities. And while those two opportunities do exist within the company, we also handle regional freight. And I want to make sure that everyone is aware of that. On the CDL side, if you're driving a semi truck, you would likely be handling regional freight, which is now one of our most popular trip types. Um, so you did read some information on short haul and you read some information on over the road, but there's a lot to be known about regional freight. And just to give a quick snippet of what that really entails is regional is when you spend time on the road and time at home. So as opposed to short haul where you're home every day, or the opposite end of the spectrum with over the road where you're gone for days and weeks at a time, regional is somewhere in between. And the way it works with Drizzle Goods is you'll be on the road one day, back in your own bed the next day, on the road the following day, back in your own bed the next day, and likely get a day off in between, and then the process really repeats. So you're spending alternating days between home and on the road. One of the other nuances that I wanted to bring up is CDL drivers deliver Amazon Fulfillment Center to Amazon Fulfillment Center. So, whereas box truck drivers typically and cargo drivers typically deliver from perhaps an Amazon Fulfillment Center to a warehouse, or Amazon Fulfillment Center to another Amazon Fulfillment Center, or Amazon Fulfillment Center to a post office. You may have seen reference to that as well. We do not deliver between third parties when it comes to CDL drivers. Something else to call out is Drizzle Goods does not book loads, any sort of spot loads for CDL drivers in particular. Um, in some cases, if you're completing test loads or any other special circumstances, you may be placed on a quick spot load or a quick assignment or project, but those are few and far in between. CDL drivers are placed on dedicated contracts with shippers. So I wanted to call out that nuance and make sure that that was clear when it comes to CDL drivers. Now, CDL drivers are assigned to the support team, which is much different than box truck drivers. So if you watch the training, you may have seen a mention of a dispatch team and then a logistics team, and how to reach out for support. So we still have a dispatch team and a logistics team, but those are dedicated to the box truck drivers since they specifically do spot loads and sort of small project requests. Those are um, handled by logistics and dispatch. For CDL drivers, you're assigned to a support team, and dispatch is actually handled directly through Amazon and supported through Amazon through one of their support centers called ROC. And the ROC is there to handle any trip issues, to assist you on the road, to, just address any issue that you might be having on the road. But then you also have the Drizzle Goods support team, which you'll access through Google Chats, that is there 24/7, 7 days a week, to assist with any sort of trip issues as well. So those should kind of be used in tandem with the Amazon ROC, but Amazon ROC is your first point of contact for any trip issues, and then you would contact Drizzle Good support through the chat, and that way we assist it with that as well. So just want to make sure I called that out. Now, that you also receive some references throughout the training of this driver daily checklist. You will receive still a quick reference daily checklist. This is like 1.5 pages of just quick reference things for you to look through and to complete each day as you complete your trips. So it's really just like a reminder, something you should refer to often. So let's see here. There's some other nuances that I want to make sure I call out. Um, So for fuel limits in the training, it did state, and this is important because you may have this come up on a test, wink, wink, but it did mention that the fuel limits were $200 for semi drivers. And I want to make sure that I make it clear that that limit has increased to $250 per day for semi drivers, just because the cost of fuel has increased since that video has been shot. So $250 for semi truck drivers is the fuel limit currently, and that is also in your policy documents and things like that. Fuel cards, it mentioned that you can use those at certain locations. Fuel cards can now actually be used universally. And there are great discounts at Pilot Flying J and TA Petro, but those can be used anywhere. All right. CDL drivers will not touch freight. So I want to make sure that's clear, because in the video it did talk about sort of loading and unloading, and those are specific to box truck drivers. All CDL freight is no touch, drop and hook. You will have to hook and unhook your own trailers, but that is the extent of the strenuous work when you go to deliver freight. All right. Now, drivers now have a vehicle liaison who actually handles vehicle pickup, contract signings, things of that nature. So drivers will only need to arrive at the location and receive their truck and their equipment from the vehicle liaison. You're no longer required to um, pick up, your truck and go in and talk to the agent or anything like that. You will have a vehicle liaison there with you to handle those things. All right, so let's talk a bit about scheduling. I want to make sure that's clear. When it comes to box trucks, we handle the scheduling for that. Again, I mentioned that earlier, that we dispatch those. We have an internal dispatch team that handles that. For the CDL side, all scheduling is done by Amazon. So I want to make sure that's clear. All scheduling is done by Amazon. We have no control over working days, off days, trip times, or destinations. Schedules are released every Friday for the upcoming week. So you'll be able to see your schedule once we assign it to you um, in your app, and you'll be able to determine what your off days are, or trip times. Locations sometimes are in there, other times it takes a while for those to populate, but you will at least know what days you're working and your times that you're working. All right. And I just want to make sure it's clear that most CDL drivers are on dedicated contracts. They're pre-scheduled in advance, sometimes weeks or days in advance. And whenever there's a last minute call out or an issue that you cannot complete your load and we have to reject that, that has really big consequences with us and our shippers. So I can't stress enough how important it is to adhere to the time off procedure. We ask for at least 7 days advance notice, so that we can not place you on a contract for that particular period in time. In the event that you have an event coming up or you just need to take a breather or a day off, give us that notice. Okay. In the event of an illness or something like that, we understand that things happen, life happens. So in those cases, just give us as much notice as possible. All right. Um, so when it comes to time offs and call outs, I just want to make sure that you guys know that we value and understand that you need time off, and we encourage you to actually take that time. So all we ask is for notice so we can make sure you're not locked into anything, but we really encourage you to take that time off and sort of relax, refresh. I do want to call out that for each day that you take off, your pay can be affected for that. So, for example, each day that you take off, you'll incur a $350 per day deduction from your pay to pay another driver to handle your shift. So, and that's stated in your contract that you'll receive your full pay unless you, for some reason, cannot complete all of your obligations for that week. And at that point, then your pay will be reduced. And so it is reduced by $350 per day, depending on um, when you take off. And if you can't complete any of your work for that entire week, then obviously there won't be any pay. There are certain situations where the company offers paid time off as a gift or an incentive to our drivers, and those are handled on a case by case basis. So if there is a situation that warrants it, feel free to reach out to human resources and we can talk about that. All right, so let's talk about weather really quick because this one's a big one. We had a very big winter storm in the Midwest, and you all are, in the Midwest for the most part, and we know that it's notorious for snow and other fun weather types. So I want to stress the importance of winterizing your vehicles. Keeping them plugged in the winter or plugging them in often just to sort of keep them heated up, letting your vehicle warm up, keeping a snow scraper near you, and unless it has been deemed unsafe to do so, we do expect drivers to drive if it is snowed or if it's raining. There shouldn't be an instance where it's just light snow or a little drizzle and you guys are calling to say that you can't complete your shift. Now, of course, in rare occasions, if you feel it's unsafe for you to drive, certainly reach out to us and let us know, and we will handle that. You want to let ROC know as well, but we will certainly handle that. We don't want anyone on the road if it's unsafe, and if certainly if you feel it's unsafe. All right. Also, because sometimes in the snow, you may have a layover in a neighboring state, for example, and there may be situations where we want to avoid you driving in treacherous conditions. So we may have you stay an extended stay in a hotel to avoid you driving back in such treacherous conditions. So sometimes this layover can bleed into an off day or something along those lines. And in that rate, we just want to make sure that you're aware that that can happen. And we cannot adjust your days. So let's say you're out on a layover, we ended up keeping you there an extra day for your safety, and then that you drive back the next day, which so happens to be your off day. We cannot adjust your days, unfortunately, so that will be what it is. But we will make sure that you get your rest time. We will make sure that you get an off day. We just can't guarantee where it'll be. So you're going to be in the hotel in a place that we place you nice and warm and comfortable. You just may end up spending your off day there as opposed to at home. In some very rare occasions, if there's really bad weather and we don't feel it's safe for you to drive. All right. Um, we talked a bit about pre and post trip inspections. I just want to re-emphasize the importance of pre trip and post trip inspections. We've had drivers try to skip this step or complete a halfway inspection only to have serious issues on the road later, like tires or wiper fluid, when they really need to see. Um, so we just want to stress that it really only puts yourself and the motoring public at risk whenever you try to do that. It tells us that you're not completing your pre-trip and your post-trip inspections when you have issues like this arise. It's kind of obvious to us that you didn't do what you were supposed to do. So you want to make sure that you're doing that, and so that way it doesn't affect any contract opportunities with us. Now, I don't expect you to walk away from this training with complete knowledge of every single thing and memorizing everything we talked about. No way. It's just too much to cover. And a lot of it was basic and sort of general things, but a lot of it was company specific and shipper specific. So you're not going to memorize it all. But um, what we want you to walk away from is with the understanding of where to find your resources, what tools to look for when you need them, so that way you have your answers. And you're going to do most of your learning as you go throughout your driving career with us anyway. So, but you have your Google Drive, which you'll download on your phone, and you'll keep that where a lot of the documents like the driver handbook and things like that are access to or are included in. And then you'll just be sure to access those documents through the drive. Your handbook is in there. Inside the handbook, several links, as you just saw, that I shared with you on how to get to certain documents, certain online articles, certain instructions. Your driver checklist is linked there. Your driver policies are linked there. Other important documents. So start with that handbook. It's going to pretty much guide you everywhere you need to go. And if you're in doubt or you can't find anything, you can always reach out to support. Again, they're there 24/7 through chat. Um, let's quickly talk about safety. Now, I said it earlier. I'm going to say it again because I really want to make sure you guys understand this. Safety is key, and we take your safety very seriously. Now, we've loaded all drivers with vehicles that are newer, with great safety features to keep you safe on the road. Um, we also hold monthly safety meetings as a team to go over the latest safety protocols. We discuss issues, share tips and tricks. So be on the lookout for that on your Google Calendar. We do require everyone to attend if you want to, remain contracted with us. Again, it's to ensure your safety. It is possible that these meetings can land on your off day, and so we try to schedule these only once a month, and we try to keep them less than an hour. Get in, get out. But it is possible that that can fall on your off day, and so I want to make sure you're aware of that. All right. And then last but not least, we want to talk about test loads. Now, test loads are considered on the job training or refreshers for drivers who haven't been in the industry lately or for drivers who have less than 1 year of professional driving experience. So essentially, what you'd be doing is completing less strenuous trips to get your feet wet and sort of learn the process. Now, drivers who complete test loads will not receive their full regular pay during this period. And that's in uh, the contractor agreement and things like that. But I always want to make sure I bring that up in the training as well. So drivers received a prorated pay amount based on the numbers of days that they worked during their test period. So let's just say you do um, work a full week, and depending on your pay, then it's likely, if you're doing test loads that week, that you will receive your full pay. But if you're only doing test loads like 2 to 3 days a week, then your pay will be prorated. So for example, if your test loads are Wednesday through Friday only, then you'll be paid $300 for each day at a total of $900 for that week because you've only worked 3 days in that week as opposed to 5 or 6. All right. And that's regardless of what your pay is. That is the pay for test loads. Once you complete your test loads and you're placed on a contract, then you'll receive your full pay there going forward as long as you complete all of your obligations and you don't take any time off. All right. So that concludes the CDL nuances and the call outs that I wanted to make in regards to the previous training. Of course, you want to now go ahead and complete your quiz and reach out if you have any questions or issues. Really appreciate your time and attention with attending this training, and I hope you have a wonderful day. Thank you.